Now, one of the biggest things with any of the quadratic equations or higher degree polynomial functions is finding the values to either factor it or find the solutions. Now, the answer choices will always help us in finding the overall answers. Now, for the first one we're going to look at here is number 1. Which of the following expressions is a factored form of x squared plus 6x plus 8? Now, whenever we factor a quadratic is any polynomial function where the biggest exponent is 2. So this one here would be a quadratic. We start off by writing 2 sets of parentheses with 3 spaces. Now, to find the sign that goes in the middle, we would look at the third term. So here it's positive 8. If the third term is positive, the signs are the same and they match the sign of the middle term. Well, 8 is positive, and the middle term is positive, so we would have plus and plus. Well, when we look at our answer choices, well, that would mean A, B, and C are not going to be correct. So that leaves us with D and E. What are the factors of 8? 1, 8, and 2, and 4. Now, if we went on and factor this, because the next part would be finding the factors of the first and third term. Well, the first term is just going to be x and x, because the only things that multiply together to give me x squared are x and x. Now, the factors of 8, as we just said, are 1 and 8 or 2 and 4. So I'm either going to have x plus 2, x plus 4 using 2 and 4, or 1 and 8. Well, what does 6 say the factors of 8 are? Or E, well, it's saying it's 6 and, is 6 and 2 factors of 8? 6 times 2 gives 8? Well, no. I mean, the correct answer is D. Questions on this here? We're going to look at number 3 next. Which of the following values of x is a solution to the equation x squared minus 8x plus 3 is equal to negative 4? One of the ways that we could go about doing this is just plugging in the values that they gave us for x, and seeing if it does make a true statement. Because I could start off with 1 and say 1 squared minus 8 times 1 plus 3 is it equal to negative 4? Well, 1 squared would be 1. Negative 8 times 1 would be negative 8 plus 3. 1 minus 8 is negative 7. And negative 7 plus 3 is negative 4. Is that equal to negative 4? So that'd be the correct answer. Now, another way that we can do this is that we could set it equal to 0. Now, the way that we can get this set equal to 0 is that we can add 4 to both sides, which tells me that I have x squared minus 8x plus 7 is equal to 0. Because once I get it equal to 0, we can graph it and have the calculator tell us what the solutions are. Now, in the graphing calculator, what we would do first is hit y equals. And then we would type our function in, which would be x squared minus 8x plus 7. We would type it into the graphing calculator, and once we get it typed in, we'll hit graph. And there are 2 places where it crosses the x-axis because we're trying to find out where the y value is 0. So we can go second table. One of the spots where the y value is 0 is when x is 1. The other one is when x is equal to 7. So 7 and 1. And if we look at our answer choices, the only one that shows up is x equal to 1. 7 is not a possible answer choice. They put negative 7 up there just to throw you off, because you might be tempted to circle it. So the correct answer is 1. Any questions on this here? Let's look at number 4. Which of the following expressions is a factor of the expression x squared plus 2x minus 24? Well, if we're to factor this, we're going to have 2 sets of parentheses with 3 spaces. To find the sign, we look at the third term. If the third term is positive, the signs are the same and they match the side of the middle term. If the third term is negative, our signs are opposite. If the third term is positive and the middle term is negative. Because if the third term is positive, then the signs are the same and they match the sign of the middle term. If the third term is negative, they're automatically opposite. One's going to be positive and one's going to be negative. At this point here, we're looking at the factors of the first and third term. Well, the factors of the first term are x and x. Now, the factors of 24 are 1 times 24, 2 and 12, 3 and 8, 4 and 6. So these are the factors that we have here. Which ones do we want to try first? Four and 6. And the last thing we need to do is to check it. X times negative 6 would be negative 6x. 4 times x would be plus 4x. And negative 6x plus 4x would be negative 2x. Is that what we wanted? Well, no, we wanted it to be positive instead of negative. So what we can do is switch the signs, make the 4 negative and the 6 positive. And that would work because x times 6 would be positive 6x this time. Negative 4 times x would be negative 4x. And 6x minus 4x gives us a positive 2x, which we wanted. So our 2 factors are x minus 4 and x plus 6. Well, the only one that does show up is our x plus 6. Any questions on this here? Let's look at the next one that we're going to look at is number 5. What are the solutions to the equation x squared minus 4x equals 32? Well, here we can just start picking numbers off the list and try plugging it in. So I could say negative 4. So we can say negative 4 squared minus 4 times negative 4 and see if this equals 32. Well, negative 4 squared is positive 16. Negative 4 times negative 4 would be plus 16, and 16 plus 16 is 32. So negative 4 worked. Now, I picked it from C, but are any of the other answer choices have a value of negative 4? No? So most likely it means C is the correct answer. We could also try it with 8 and see if 8 squared minus 4 times 8 is 32. Well, 8 squared is 64. 4 times 8 is 32. Well, 64 minus 32 is 32, and 32 is equal to 32. Now, we could have also done this in the calculator. Now, to plug it into the calculator, we do need this equal to 0. So we can subtract 32 from both sides, which will tell us that we have x squared minus 4x minus 32 is equal to 0, because we want to get it to equal to 0 first. Now, after we get it equal to 0, we can plug it into the graphing calculator. To do that, we can hit y equals first. And then we would type our function in, x squared minus 4x minus 32. And once we get it typed into the graphing calculator, we can hit graph or second table. And as we can see here, when x is 8, the value of y is 0. That is one of the solutions. And if we scroll up, at -4, when x is -4, the y value is 0. So the solutions are -4 and 8, which we happen to find by chance by plugging it in. Any questions on this here? Let's look at number 6. What is the sum of the two solutions to the equation x squared plus 4x minus 21 is equal to 0? Well, here we can't just plug the numbers in because it's asking for us to add our two solutions together, or sum. So what we have to do is we have to plug it into the graphing calculator, or we can plug it in for it to give us the answers. So we plug it in. For this one here, we can say x squared plus 4x minus 21. So we can type it into the graphing calculator. And once we get it typed in, we can go second graph. And we want to see when the y value is 0. Now we can also look at the graph itself, because if I look at the graph, there's two places where it crosses the x-axis. Whenever the equation or the graph crosses the x-axis, those two locations is where y is 0. So I see that I have one in the negatives and I have one in the positives. So when I look at the table, I'm looking for an x value that is negative and an x value that's positive. Well, here we have 2. Because when x is -7, the y value is 0. And when x is 3, the y value is 0. So our two solutions is when x is equal to -7 and x is equal to 3. Well, -7 and 3 are both part of our choices, but what are they wanting? They want the sum, so we need to add these together. Well, -7 plus 3 is, so the correct answer is H. Any other questions on this here? All right. The next one I want to look at is number 12. Skip a few. What is the value of x if, parentheses, x minus 2, close parentheses, open parentheses, x plus 5, close parentheses, plus 3x minus 2 is equal to -21. So we want to solve this for what value of x will make this statement true. Now, again, like we've been doing before, we can just grab a number at random. So I'll just pick the middle number, -3 minus 2, and plug it in for x. And see if it equals -21. Well, -3 minus 2 is -5. -3 plus 5 is 2. -3 times 3 is -9. Minus 2 is equal to -21. -5 times 2 is -10. -9 minus 2 is -11. And -21 is equal to, so it works out H is the correct answer. Now, it's not always going to work out that the middle answer is correct for these, but it's just, coincidentally enough, it has for these here. Now, we can still solve this in the graphing calculator, and it doesn't take a whole lot of steps. Because whenever we want to solve something in the graphing calculator, we need the thing equal to what? So we can add 21 to both sides, which tells us that we have x minus 2 times x plus 5 plus 3x plus 23 is equal to, well, not 23, it would be 19 is equal to 0. Now, we don't have to go on and do any of the distributive property, any of that, because the calculator will take care of it for us. So what we can do is pull the graphing calculator back up, go on and hit y equals. Now that we have it equal to 0, we can go on and type it in exactly as they told it to us. Parentheses, x minus 2, close parentheses, open parentheses, x plus 5 plus 3x, and then we have plus 19. So I'm going to type it in just like this here. I'm not going to worry about distributive property, any of the other simplifications. We're going to leave it as this here. And once we get it typed in, we can go on and hit graph. Now, there is exactly one place where this function has a y value of 0, and it's over in the negatives. And it would be -3, as we found already, by just picking a number and plugging it in. Any questions on this here? -3. Now this one here would be similar. It's just figuring out when p is 0. But this one here is the last one I want to look at. What are the possible values of x for this here? Well, all right. I'm just going to pick a number from the middle one and try it. If it works, awesome. If it doesn't, we'll try something else. Well, we can try -3. Well, -3 minus 3 is, and -6 divided by 2 is -3. Well, 5 divided by -3 evenly? No, so we have -5/3. Is -3 equal to -5/3? Oh no, so H is not right. We can set it up again and try -5. -5 minus 3 over 2. 5 over -5. Because I'm just plugging -5 in for x. Well, -5 minus 3 is -8. And -8 divided by 2 is -4. Over here, 5 divided by -5 is a -1. Is -4 equal to -1? No. So that means F and G do not work. So it's telling me one thing for sure is that 5 will work, yes? Because the only two left have 5, but what do they differ? +2, yes? Which one do we want to try, -2 or +2? So -2 minus 3 over 2 is equal to 5 divided by -2. Well, -2 minus 3 is -5 over 2. Well, that doesn't simplify, so we have -5 over 2. Is -5/2 equal to -5/2? So the correct answer is J. Sometimes if they give you answer choices in an equation, just try plugging them in, see if one of them works. And that's it. Questions on any of this here? Now, the ones we didn't do will be for points. The ones that we did not do will be for points. Your assignment is in Google Classroom. It is the, rename it to, it is the math lesson 25 exit ticket. And again, as we talked on about this last week, we're going over this year because there's not going to be a specific paper assignment. You have 3 entrance ticket questions, 3 exit ticket questions. So I have signed that today. You will need to have that done by next week to get full, or for the possibility of getting full points, because if you get it correct, you get the points. If you get it wrong, you do not. But after a week, if you do it then, it'll be worth half, so you can get 30 points at this point. Next week, it'll be 15, and it'll slowly decrease from there on out. And you do need to get the entrance ticket done to get credit for it. You have the rest of the time to work on that.